Eli Morton was not a hero. He had no great ambitions, no secret past, and no remarkable talent. In fact, if someone asked him to describe himself, he would probably say he was average in every possible way. Average height, average weight, average intelligence, and above all, extraordinarily unnoticeable. That suited him fine. Eli liked blending in, moving quietly through life, fixing machines, and avoiding responsibility. But that day, all of that would change. He had been working late on the research station, Haven 7, floating somewhere near the outer rim of the galaxy, tightening a faulty energy conduit that kept the station's communication arrays running. The lights flickered as he tightened the last bolt, and a soft hiss of released steam filled the compartment. He wiped sweat from his brow and muttered, "If I hear one more alarm today, I swear." A voice cut through the quiet. "Morton." It was calm, cold, and entirely impossible to ignore. Eli froze and turned. Standing in the doorway was a figure so alien that even the most experienced diplomats would have paused. She was tall, taller than any human by at least 3 feet, with smooth lavender skin that seemed to shimmer under the fluorescent lights. Her eyes were an endless swirl of silver and violet, reflecting shapes he couldn't name. She wore ornate armor that glittered faintly, etched with symbols he didn't understand, and she carried herself with the kind of authority that made even hardened space captains feel like children. "You must be Eli Morton," she said, her voice low and resonant, vibrating slightly in the air. "I am Queen Zarethan of the Lyrathi, and I have chosen you." Eli blinked. He blinked again, then he laughed nervously, thinking it was some kind of practical joke. Me? Chosen for what?" "For marriage," she said simply. There was no humor in her tone, no hesitation, only certainty. Eli's laughter caught in his throat. You can't be serious," he stammered. I'm just an engineer. I barely know how to operate a proper communicator, let alone marry a queen." Queen Zarethan tilted her head slightly, a gesture that was part curiosity and part amusement. "Your rank, your status, your species, none of that matters. The galaxy faces a threat that only your kind can confront. Your chaos noise, the unpredictable patterns of your mind, your voice, your actions, interact with ancient technology in ways no other life form can. Without it, billions will die. Chaos. What now? Look, I don't even know how to fix my own sleep schedule. You think me making weird noises can save the galaxy?" The Queen's silver eyes narrowed slightly, though it was hard to tell emotion on her face. "You underestimate the power of human unpredictability. What you call weakness is actually strength. And now, you have no choice." Before Eli could protest further, several Lyrathi guards stepped forward, their limbs long and jointed in ways that made Eli's mind ache to comprehend. "You will come with me," the Queen commanded, and their advanced gravitational levitation belts carried him gently, but firmly, out of the maintenance bay. As they moved through the station, Eli tried to grasp what had just happened. His mind spun. He had always imagined adventure as something that happened to other people, pilots, explorers, heroes, and halavids, but never him. And now, here he was, being claimed as a husband by an alien queen who seemed to radiate absolute power and deadly competence. They reached the docking bay, and a massive ship waited, unlike anything Eli had ever seen. It was sleek but vast, a combination of fluid lines and jagged edges, with surfaces that shimmered and pulsed with energy. The station's artificial gravity adjusted as they boarded, and Eli stumbled, trying to keep his balance. "Stay close," Zarethan instructed, her voice now slightly softer, though still commanding. "We do not have time for hesitation. The Oblivion Swarm approaches and our defenses will not hold." Eli's brain refused to process all the words at once. Oblivion. Swarm? Defenses? Wait, are you saying there's an attack? And me? Am supposed to help stop it? Yes, she said simply. Your kind is unpredictable. You will interface with the device known as the harmonic convergence. It has lain dormant for millennia because no other species could activate it. Only you can. Eli tried to imagine himself doing anything remotely heroic. He couldn't. He had trouble making toast without burning it. Yet now, he was supposed to save the galaxy. A cold sweat broke out across his forehead. The Queen ignored his silent panic. She led him through corridors that seemed impossibly vast and impossibly alien. Everything hummed with energy, the walls glowing faintly with patterns that shifted as he walked past. Machines taller than buildings loomed over him, their purposes impossible to guess. Yet there was something familiar in the hums and vibrations, a rhythm that Eli instinctively felt but could not explain. They reached a chamber larger than any auditorium on Earth. At the center, a device pulsed softly. It looked alive, though nothing about it was natural. Its surface was smooth, reflective, and covered in alien runes that glowed faintly. Thin arcs of energy leapt between nodes, as if the machine itself were breathing. This is the harmonic convergence, Sarathan explained. It can recalibrate the entire galaxy's defenses in time to stop the swarm. But it requires a specific resonance, your resonance. Only your voice, your mind, your chaos can activate it. Ellie stared. He wanted to run, hide, scream, and cry, all at the same time. But the Queen's eyes met his, steady and unyielding. There was no room for doubt. You don't have to understand it now, she said, almost kindly. You only need to trust yourself. Humans are difficult to predict. That is your gift. That is your weapon. But Abali took a shaky breath. Eli took a shaky breath. I'm not sure I can do this. I mean, I can barely talk to my coworkers without messing up. And now I'm supposed to talk to this thing? And it will save billions? The Queen inclined her head. You will, and once you start, there is no turning back. The swarm will not wait for you to find courage. Only action matters. For a long moment, Eli just stared at the pulsing device. It seemed to recognize him in some strange, impossible way. He could feel vibrations in the floor, in the air, in his bones. Every instinct screamed that this was insane. That he was insane. But somewhere deep inside, a tiny spark of excitement flickered. The same spark he felt when he fixed a machine, and it suddenly came alive. The spark told him that maybe, just maybe, he could do this. Before he could second-guess himself further, alarms blared throughout the ship. Red lights painted the walls. A deep, resonant voice echoed through the corridors in multiple tones simultaneously. The Lyrathi warning system announcing the arrival of the Oblivion Swarm. Time is shorter than you think, Zarathyne said, her voice cutting through the chaos. You will begin now. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. His voice came out shaky, awkward, and uneven. It made no sense. Notes rose and fell erratically, sometimes sharp, sometimes low, sometimes barely audible. And then, something incredible happened. The machine responded. The energy nodes pulsed in sync with his chaos. Sparks leapt, lights danced, and the device seemed to hum in acknowledgement. Every time he made a mistake in pitch or timing, it reacted differently, adjusting, reconfiguring, adapting. The Queen's eyes widened slightly. She had seen this before, in simulations, but never with real humans. Eli's panic began to transform. There was a strange exhilaration in seeing his mistakes create results. Each chaotic sound he made disrupted patterns that no alien intelligence could predict. He shouted, "Nonsense!" hummed discordant tunes, tapped metal railings, and the device responded perfectly. Somehow, his randomness was working. The alarms intensified, the hum of the harmonic convergence grew louder, and Eli began to feel a strange connection between himself and the machine. It was as if his voice, his movements, his very existence were becoming part of the device. He stumbled occasionally, laughed nervously, and shouted when sparks flew too close, but every action pushed the machine closer to activation. Queen Zarathin watched silently, then slowly stepped forward. Her silver eyes softened slightly. "You may be the unlikeliest of heroes," she murmured, "but perhaps, just perhaps, you are the only one who can save us all." Eli paused, breathless, sweat dripping from his brow. He looked at the Queen, then at the machine, then at the stars beyond the viewport. He had no idea how this would end. He had no training, no strategy, no heroic lineage. He was just Eli Morton, a low-rank human, a maintenance engineer, an ordinary man. And yet, for the first time, he felt a spark of something extraordinary. Chaos, imperfection, unpredictability. It was no longer his weakness. It might just be his greatest strength. The swarming fleet of the Oblivion was drawing closer. The galaxy's fate rested on the chaotic noise of a single, ordinary human. And somehow, Eli Morton had to rise to the impossible challenge. He swallowed hard, took a deep breath, and stepped further into the pulsing light of the harmonic convergence, ready to embrace chaos and see what would happen next. The galaxy waited, trembling. Eli Morton had survived the first moment, but that did not mean he felt prepared for what came next. The Queen had led him deeper into the flagship, a ship so immense that entire human cities could have fit inside its corridors. Lights shimmered along the walls in patterns that seemed alive, and every surface hummed with energy. Aliens moved around them, their long limbs bending in ways Eli's mind refused to fully process. Each of them stared at him, suspicion and disbelief etched in their features. "You are certain this human can do it?" one of the counselors asked the Queen, his voice trembling slightly. Queen Zarathin's silver eyes fixed on him. "I am certain." "You underestimate the value of unpredictability. His kind is chaotic. That is precisely what we need." Eli shuffled along, his heart hammering in his chest. He kept glancing at the harmonic convergence device, which pulsed faintly ahead, reacting even to his movements. He still could not comprehend how his mere existence, or his chaos noise, as the Queen called it, could affect anything so complex. "Okay," he muttered under his breath, mostly to himself. "I'm in way over my head. Way over." The Queen did not answer, but her presence alone was enough to make Eli feel both protected and terrified. As they reached the observation deck, the vastness of space stretched before him, unending and filled with countless stars. But beyond the lights of the galaxy, something dark moved, a shadow that seemed to swallow everything it touched, the Oblivion Swarm. "They are closer than we thought," Zarathin said, her tone clipped. "Their fleet moves faster than our scouts predicted. By the time they reach the inner systems, we will have mere hours to respond." Eli's stomach twisted. He had read about space battles in holobooks, but he had never expected to witness one, let alone participate in saving the galaxy from annihilation. He felt like a child handed a sword meant for kings. "You said my chaos noise can stop them," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "But I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't know how to control it. I know better than what." "What if I make it worse?" The Queen's eyes softened slightly. "Control is irrelevant. Predictability is irrelevant. Your value lies in your inability to conform to patterns. The swarm's systems anticipate uniform, logical behavior. They will not anticipate you."
You are an anomaly, and anomalies are dangerous to them.
Ellie sighed. So, basically, I'm dangerous because I'm a mess? That is one way to put it, Zarathan said, almost amused. They reached a smaller chamber that overlooked the device. Hollow screens floated in the air, displaying the approaching swarm, fleets of black ships moving like a tide against the stars. Eli's gaze widened. Each ship was a sharp, jagged shadow, moving with terrifying precision. Even from a distance, it was easy to see why no conventional fleet could stop them. Now, the Queen said, turning to him, we will begin exercises. You must experiment with your sound patterns, your voice, your instincts. Do not think, do not plan. Let your mind wander. Let your body act without logic. That is how you interface with the device. Eli stared. He felt like he had just been told to paint a masterpiece with his eyes closed while standing on a tightrope over a volcano, but he nodded, realizing there was no escaping this. The first attempt was chaotic but painfully ineffective. Eli hummed a note, then coughed, then accidentally banged a metal railing with his elbow. Sparks shot from the device. It responded, but not in the way the Queen expected. The energy pulses jittered, almost mocking him. Interesting, she said quietly. You are already influencing it. Continue. P, Eli muttered under his breath. Influencing it, huh? Yeah, I'm a real genius. He took a deep breath and tried again, this time humming an odd tune, adding random claps and taps with his hands. To his surprise, the device reacted more smoothly. Nodes glowed, arcs of energy danced in unpredictable patterns, and the machine seemed alive. Good, Zarathan said. You begin to understand. Let the chaos guide you. Let it speak through you. Eli laughed nervously. Speak through me? It's more like it's yelling at me in a language I don't know. Hours passed. Eli's chaos noise became louder, stranger, more unpredictable. He hummed dissonant tones, shouted nonsense, and even sang parts of old Earth songs he barely remembered. Every time he did, the harmonic convergence responded in ways he could not anticipate. Lights flashed, energy arcs danced, and the alien advisors scrambled to record the effects. But outside, the swarm advanced. The holoscreens showed their ships beginning to breach the outer defenses of inhabited systems. The Queen watched silently, her eyes focused on the screens, calculating probabilities and outcomes. Eli, however, began to notice something. The more he embraced his randomness, the more the device's energy pulses seemed to pulse in harmony with his own heartbeat. It was not perfect. The energy waves sometimes surged in the wrong direction, sometimes fizzled out entirely, and sometimes caused minor electrical disturbances that startled everyone in the room. Yet, it worked better than anyone could have imagined. The swarm's attack was being subtly disrupted. Ships misfired, communication arrays glitched, and for the first time, the aliens fighting the swarm managed to intercept ships they would have otherwise lost. Eli smiled, feeling a strange rush of pride. I think I'm doing it, he whispered. The Queen's lips barely moved.
You are. But this is only the beginning.
The swarm will adapt. You must adapt faster. Before Eli could react further, alarms blared louder than ever. The swarm had detected the interference and was changing its formation. Massive ships turned in precise patterns, targeting the Queen's flagship directly. Lights flickered, and the deck shuddered as the ship's defenses activated. Eli stumbled, gripping a railing for balance. They are learning, Zarathan said, her voice sharp now. Your unpredictability is slowing them. But it is not enough. You must push further. Embrace even greater chaos. Eli's mind raced. How could he push further? He was already shouting, humming, tapping, and moving in ways that would have made any alien observer dizzy. He glanced at the Queen, whose eyes seemed to silently urge him on. Taking a deep breath, he let himself go completely. He started making sounds he had never imagined. He banged metal panels together, stomped across the floor, shouted gibberish, whistled in odd tones, and even danced in wild, erratic patterns. The device responded explosively. Energy arc surged higher than anyone expected, illuminating the chamber in a chaotic symphony of light and sound. Sparks flew, machines whirred, and for a brief moment, it seemed as though the ship itself had come alive, reacting to Eli's human chaos. Outside, the swarm faltered, their formations broke. Ships collided with one another. Missiles misfired. The precise, relentless machine of war began to wobble under the unpredictability of a single human. The alien advisors stared in disbelief. "Impossible," one whispered. "It cannot be human. No life form could have caused this level of disruption." The Queen's eyes glimmered with approval. "This is only the beginning. He is proving what I have always suspected. Humanity is dangerous when underestimated." Eli was breathless, sweat dripping down his face. He had no idea if he was doing it right or wrong. He had no training, no plan, no heroic lineage. He was just a maintenance engineer from a small station on the edge of the galaxy, and yet here he was, influencing the fate of billions with nothing but instinct, noise, and chaos. "Again!" Zarathin commanded, her voice cutting through his thoughts. "Push harder! Let the device feel your unpredictability fully." Eli swallowed hard and let go of every restraint. His voice rose in wild tones, some high, some low, some sharp, some soft. He kicked panels, clanged pipes, stomped the floor, and shouted nonsense phrases that had no meaning but carried raw human emotion. And the device responded like a living organism, its energy flowing and twisting with every chaotic movement, every unpredictable note. Time became meaningless. The ship shook as alarms continued to blare. Eli lost track of minutes and hours. He only knew that the device and his chaos had become one in some strange, impossible way. The swarm was still coming, but their advance was slowing, faltering in ways no one could explain. Finally, Eli collapsed onto the floor, exhausted, panting and trembling. The room was a mess, sparks, smoke, and scattered equipment, but the device pulsed steadily, a faint hum in harmony with his slowing heartbeat. Queen Zarathin stepped forward, her expression unreadable, but her eyes glimmered with something like awe. "You are learning quickly," she said. "The swarm is beginning to understand that humans are not to be underestimated. But the galaxy still hangs in balance. You must continue. You must grow stronger, and soon you will face a test unlike any you have imagined." Eli lay there, trying to catch his breath. He was terrified, exhilarated, and completely overwhelmed. He still had no idea how he could possibly succeed, yet somehow he knew he had already begun. His chaos noise had made a difference. He, an ordinary human, was already a weapon no one had anticipated, and somewhere deep inside, a spark of pride flickered. Maybe being unpredictable was not a flaw. Maybe it was the galaxy's greatest hope. The stars outside stretched endlessly, indifferent and beautiful, but the shadows of the swarm drew closer, and Eli knew the real test was only beginning. Eli Morton had survived the first encounters with the harmonic convergence, but surviving was not the same as winning. The Oblivion swarm was relentless, moving with a precision and coordination that would have crushed any conventional fleet. And yet, his unpredictable chaos had begun to shake them. Still, Eli knew that hesitation, fear, or misstep could undo everything. The weight of the galaxy pressed on him, heavier than any bolt he had ever tightened or panel he had ever fixed. Queen Zarathin observed him silently as he paced before the pulsing device. "Your progress is promising," she said finally. But you must reach beyond what you think possible. You must become the storm, not just a spark. Eli stopped pacing and stared at her. The storm? I'm barely keeping up with the noise, and now you want me to become it? Chaos is not weakness, Eli, she said. It is a weapon. You have begun to scratch the surface of your potential, but the swarm is learning. They adapt, and they will strike back. You must evolve faster than they do. Eli groaned. He had never been good at evolving on command. He had survived minor explosions, misfired circuits, and failed experiments, but this was different. The stakes were higher than anything he had imagined. And yet, he knew she was right. There was no choice. The galaxy depended on him. The first signal came shortly after, an alert that made the entire flagship vibrate. The swarm had redirected several of their main vessels directly toward inhabited systems. Eli froze. Hollow screens displayed thousands of ships converging, their paths precise, almost hypnotic. Without intervention, billions would die. They are recalibrating, Zarathin said. Her calm tone could have been reassuring if not for the tension that underlined it. Your noise has delayed them, but they are adapting. You must escalate. Eli swallowed hard. He had no idea how he could escalate chaos beyond the strange, erratic, loud patterns he had already produced. He had shouted, hummed, clanged, and stumbled, but the swarm's precision was formidable. Every time he imagined failure, a shiver ran down his spine. But the thought of billions dying, that was a fear he could not ignore. Okay, he muttered, pacing again. Think, Eli. Just be louder? Be messier? More random? Zarathinin raised a hand. Do not think. Feel. Move with instinct. Let your humanity guide you. Remember, you are the anomaly. Let the anomaly define the outcome. Then he closed his eyes, letting go of logic entirely. He started making sounds he had never made before. He stomped, shouted, whistled, hummed, and even banged parts of the floor with tools he picked up along the way. Every mistake, every misstep, every wrong note became part of the pattern. The harmonic convergence responded violently but beautifully. Pulses of energy flared, arcs of electricity danced across the room, and for the first time, Eli felt truly connected to the device. Outside, the swarm's formation wavered, ships collided, fired inaccurately, and communication signals misaligned. The previously unstoppable force of the swarm began to falter, and the first human fleets managed to reclaim some control. Eli smiled faintly. Okay, maybe I am doing something right. But victory was far from certain. The swarm adapted faster than anyone anticipated. New formations emerged, countering some of his patterns. A massive alien warship loomed on the holoscreen, its weapons locked onto the flagship. If it fired, billions of lives would be lost. Eli, Zarathon said sharply, you must push further. Trust your chaos. Let it consume you. Eli's mind raced. He had never understood what that meant. Consume him! His instincts screamed in confusion. But then he realized that fear was only another pattern, a constraint. Letting go of fear, letting go of control, letting go of expectation, that was the key. He began to experiment in ways he never imagined. He rolled across the floor, letting sparks from loose panels fly as he moved. He banged on railings, kicked metal objects, and let his voice rise and fall in wild, unpredictable waves. At moments he shouted incomprehensible phrases, sometimes half in English, half in gibberish. Yet every time, the harmonic convergence seemed to pulse more strongly, its energy arcs weaving intricate patterns that disrupted the swarm's attack. The alien advisors muttered among themselves. This cannot be, human ones said. No species should possess this level of adaptability. Zarathin's silver eyes glimmered with satisfaction. They are beginning to see it. Humanity is dangerous when underestimated. Eli paused for a breath, though it was shallow. Dangerous? Sure, I can do dangerous. I didn't sign up to underestimate it, though. Accept it, the Queen said, almost gently. It is your power. The galaxy depends on it. Another alarm blared, louder and more urgent than before. A massive wave of swarm ships had reached the outskirts of a nearby colony system. Eli's pulse quickened. He realized that half of his chaos was not enough. He had to integrate every instinct, every emotion, every accidental sound into the device. The harmonic convergence demanded full commitment. He spread his arms, almost instinctively, letting his body move in every possible direction. He whistled, banged, stomped, clanged, shouted, and hummed in combinations that even he could not follow. Every movement, every noise, every mistake added another layer to the chaotic symphony. The device reacted instantly, arcs of energy shooting outward, blanketing the space around the flagship. Outside, the swarm faltered. Ships collided, misfired, and struggled to maintain formation. Communications jammed, weapons malfunctioned, and the first human fleets launched counterattacks with unexpected success. Eli's chaos had become a weapon of astonishing power. But it was exhausting. His muscles ached, his voice cracked, and sweat poured down his face. He stumbled, nearly falling onto a control console, but something inside him urged him onward. Every note, every movement, every human instinct mattered. "Don't stop," Zarathin said. Her voice rang with command, yet beneath it, Eli sensed admiration. "You are the instrument, Eli. Play without thinking, without hesitation." He screamed, banged, and even laughed uncontrollably, feeling the strange thrill of total unpredictability. The device shivered in response, reacting in ways even the Queen could not fully predict. Sparks leapt, nodes glowed, and the entire room seemed to hum in harmony with his chaos. The swarm tried to adapt, but Eli's improvisation was too erratic, too unpredictable. Every adjustment they made was countered by another random human instinct. The alien fleet began to crumble, its once perfect coordination failing under the relentless chaos of a single human engineer. Eli's heart pounded. He had no plan, no strategy, no heroic lineage. He was just a man from the edge of the galaxy, a maintenance worker, someone who had spent his life unnoticed. Yet here he was, shaping the fate of billions, with instinct, improvisation, and sheer unpredictability. The Queen stepped forward. "You are learning faster than I anticipated," she said. "The swarm is faltering because they cannot predict you. That is humanity's greatest weapon, but the final trial approaches. You must master it, or the galaxy may still fall." Eli's lungs burned, his arms ached, and every part of him screamed to stop. But he could not. He had glimpsed what humans were capable of, what his kind could achieve when underestimated. The chaos within him was not a flaw. It was a force, and now he had to push it further than ever before. He raised his voice again, letting every fear, every doubt, every instinct pour out in a cacophony of sound and movement. Sparks flew, lights danced, and the harmonic convergence pulsed like a living creature. The swarm wavered, faltered, and began to scatter, unable to comprehend the unpredictable force disrupting their perfect machine-like coordination. Eli collapsed briefly, panting and shaking. Yet a strange exhilaration filled him. He had become the storm the Queen had spoken of, not by planning or training, but by embracing the chaos that defined him as human. The galaxy hung in balance, and for the first time he felt the weight of his own power. Not arrogance, not heroics, but raw, unpredictable human strength. Zarathan's eyes softened slightly. You are becoming more than I imagined. Humanity is dangerous when it embraces itself fully. You have learned the first lesson of true chaos, but the final step awaits. Only then will victory be possible. Eli nodded weakly, knowing she was right. He was not finished. The swarm still existed. The galaxy still hung in the balance. But he had learned something invaluable, that his unpredictability, his mistakes, his humanity were not weaknesses. They were weapons, and soon he would wield them to their full potential. He looked out the viewport at the stars, scattered and indifferent, yet now alive with the possibilities his chaos had created. The swarm was faltering, but the final battle loomed. Eli knew that whatever came next, he would face it with the full force of his humanity. Unpredictable, messy, powerful. And somehow, that was enough. Eli Morton stood before the harmonic convergence, his body trembling from exhaustion. Hours of chaos had tested him beyond anything he had ever imagined. He could barely remember how many times he had screamed, banged, clanged, or stumbled through the device's symphony of sound and energy. But for the first time, he understood that the device was not simply reacting to noise. It was responding to his humanity. Every instinct, every imperfection, every unpredictable action flowed through the machine, shaping it like a living thing. The Queen stood beside him, her tall, shimmering form calm but alert. Her eyes, usually impossible to read, held a rare glimmer of pride. "Eli," she said, her voice soft yet commanding. "The final step is upon us. The swarm adapts faster than ever, but so must you. Trust yourself completely." Eli swallowed hard. Trust myself, right? Easy to say when billions of lives depend on your chaos. "You will not fail," Zarathan replied. "You are the anomaly. That is enough." Outside the flagship, the Oblivion Swarm had regrouped into a massive formation, their ships moving like a black tide across the stars. Hollow screens displayed thousands of vessels converging toward the inner systems, each more lethal than the last. The swarm's precision was terrifying, but Eli had seen the first cracks in their armor. He had glimpsed the possibility that humans, so small and chaotic, could disrupt even the most unstoppable machine. Taking a deep breath, Eli stepped closer to the device. Every nerve in his body screamed exhaustion, but he knew the final trial demanded everything. No hesitation, no calculation, only instinct, only chaos. He began again, humming a low note that vibrated in the floor, tapping a loose panel rhythmically with his foot, clapping his hands in uneven sequences, and letting his voice rise and fall in wild, unpredictable tones. Sparks flew from the device as energy arcs danced across the room, reacting to the patterns Eli could not even consciously control. The swarm faltered. Ships collided mid-course, missiles misfired, and communication links scrambled. Yet they adapted almost immediately, adjusting to the first layer of chaos. Eli realized that to succeed, he had to escalate further. He screamed, stomped, banged panels, rolled across the floor, and even shouted phrases in gibberish, half in English, half in thoughts he could not express. Every movement, every sound, became more erratic, more unplanned, and more human. The harmonic convergence absorbed it all, its energy pulsing faster, arcs of light crisscrossing like lightning over a stormy sea. Eli felt a strange sensation, as if his body, his voice, and his thoughts had become one with the device. The boundaries between human and machine blurred, and for a brief moment, he felt invincible. The chaos was no longer random. It was deliberate in its unpredictability, controlled only by the natural flow of his instincts. Outside, the swarm's formation broke. The perfectly coordinated fleet staggered, some ships colliding, others firing at nothing, some retreating in confusion. The human fleets, small but determined, seized the opportunity, striking with precision where the swarm had faltered. Eli's muscles ached, his lungs burned, and sweat poured down his face, but he did not stop. Every note, every stomp, every shout mattered. The device hummed louder, vibrating in resonance with his heartbeat. For the first time, Eli felt the true power of humanity: unpredictability, adaptability, and raw instinct. The aliens could plan, calculate, and strategize, but they could not anticipate chaos born of life itself. The Queen stepped closer, her voice calm, yet urgent. Do not restrain yourself. Let the chaos flow fully. Your mistakes are weapons. Your imperfections are power. The galaxy depends on it. Eli took a shaky breath and surrendered completely. He let his voice rise and fall in a wild, irregular pattern, tapping, clanging, stomping, and rolling in every direction. He let instinct guide his movements, ignoring pain, fatigue, or logic. Each motion became more exaggerated, more chaotic, and yet, strangely, more effective. Energy arcs shot outward, forming waves that radiated into space, striking the swarm in ways no one could have predicted. Ships spun out of control, weapons misfired, and communication networks jammed entirely. The swarm's advance stalled completely. For the first time, the unstoppable force was truly helpless against the unpredictable human. Eli stumbled to his knees, exhausted beyond measure, but he felt a surge of exhilaration. This was not luck. This was humanity manifesting itself in its purest form: instinct, courage, and creativity, unbound by expectation or conformity. The aliens had underestimated humans for centuries, dismissing them as weak and unremarkable. And yet, here he was, an ordinary man from a small station, wielding chaos as a weapon of unimaginable power. Outside, the human fleets advanced with renewed vigor. They capitalized on the confusion among the swarm, striking with precision and coordination, supported by Eli's chaotic influence through the device. Ships that would have been destroyed were saved. Systems on the verge of collapse stabilized. The tide of battle shifted decisively in humanity's favor. Eli's voice cracked, his hands were raw, and his knees ached from hours of movement. Yet he could not stop. The device pulsed brighter and brighter, arcs of energy shooting outward in all directions. He felt it resonating with every part of him, amplifying the chaos of his very being. Every scream, every stumble, every mistake fed the machine, feeding the galaxy's hope. Finally, a massive surge of energy shot from the harmonic convergence, striking the swarm's flagship directly. It shattered the enemy's command structure, sending a ripple of confusion through the fleet. Ships collided, formations crumbled, and the once unbreakable tide began to retreat. The human and allied fleets pressed forward, reclaiming control of the systems that had been on the brink of annihilation. Eli collapsed fully, gasping for breath. He could hardly believe what he had accomplished. Sweat dripped from his brow, and his body ached in every muscle. But a sense of awe washed over him. He, an unremarkable human, had disrupted the most precise fleet in the galaxy through nothing but instinct, randomness, and the raw unpredictability of his species. The Queen approached, her towering form casting a long shadow. She looked down at him with an expression he had never seen before on her face: genuine admiration. "You have done what no one else could," she said softly. "You have shown the galaxy the true power of humanity." Eli tried to stand, shaking violently from exhaustion, and managed a weak smile. I just made noise," he muttered, amazed at how simple it seemed now compared to the stakes. "Lots and lots of noise." Zeraphinus' silver eyes glimmered. Noise, yes. Chaos, yes. Humanity, yes. That is enough. The swarm, defeated and retreating, left the galaxy in stunned silence. The human and allied fleets had won. Systems that had been on the brink of destruction were safe, and it had all been possible because one human had embraced his flaws, his randomness, and his unpredictability, turning them into a weapon no alien intelligence could resist. The flagship's deck was quiet now, except for the hum of the harmonic convergence, pulsing gently as if it were breathing. Eli sank to the floor, completely spent, but he felt a strange warmth in his chest. He had faced the impossible and survived, not with brute force, but with instinct, courage, and the unpredictable power of being human. Queen Zarathin approached and extended her hand. "Rise, Eli Morton. You have not only saved billions, but you have redefined what humanity means in the galaxy. You are no longer a maintenance engineer. You are a symbol."
A legend. Eli struggled to his feet, gripping her hand as best he could.
"A legend?" he asked, still bewildered. I'm just me. I am just human." "That is exactly why you are a legend," she said. Her voice carried both reverence and finality. "Your unpredictability, your chaos, your humanity, these are powers the galaxy cannot ignore. Let it be known that humans are not weak. They are extraordinary in ways no one expected." Eli let out a tired, shaky laugh. "I guess being messy finally paid off." Zarathin smiled faintly, a rare expression on her face. "It did. And now, there is one more thing." Eli frowned. "One more thing. Haven't we done enough?" "You are my husband," she said simply, her tone carrying the weight of command mixed with something warmer, almost personal. "You have proven your value, your courage, and your spirit. But as my partner, you also represent the unity of our species and humanity in the galaxy. You are no longer just a human among aliens. You are my human, and the galaxy will remember you as such." Eli blinked. "Wait, you mean, married?" "Yes," she said. "Do not protest. You may have been reluctant, but your actions have justified the claim. Your chaos noise has saved the galaxy. And as my husband, you will continue to shape our future together." Eli's mind reeled. From maintenance engineer to galaxy savior to husband of an alien queen? It was absurd, but somehow, in the midst of exhaustion, exhilaration, and triumph, he found himself smiling. He had never imagined such a life, yet here he was, standing at the center of the galaxy's history. Human unpredictability shining as a force of change. The stars beyond the viewport seemed brighter now, sparkling with the knowledge that humans had claimed a place not through conformity, technology, or brute strength, but through creativity, instinct, and the unyielding power of imperfection. Eli realized that the galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. Not after witnessing one low-rank human save billions with nothing but chaos, courage, and heart. He looked at Queen Zarathin, tall and regal, and felt a strange sense of companionship. "I guess we make a pretty good team," he said weakly, still catching his breath.
"Yes," she replied softly.
"Together, we will face whatever comes next. But remember, it is your unpredictability that makes us strong. Never lose it." Eli chuckled a deep, tired laugh. "Don't worry, chaos is kind of my thing." And for the first time, he believed it. The galaxy was safe. The swarm had been broken. Humanity had proven its worth. And Eli Morton, the most unremarkable human anyone had ever met, had become a legend, not through weapons, not through strategy, but through the unstoppable, untamable, extraordinary power of being human. The stars outside stretched endlessly, indifferent, yet full of possibility. Eli, sweaty, exhausted, and smiling faintly, realized that the galaxy had changed forever, and so had he. For humanity, the future was unpredictable, and that was exactly how it should be.